Howdy, I'm Lucas Ramirez and I work here at BDA Farms. And here we're standing in our 10-acre market garden. And our market garden consists of seasonal vegetables, whether they be cucumbers, the summer squash, cucumbers. We have arugula planted right now, and in the fall we'll have sweet potatoes. And right now we're harvesting up into our ears of okra. And so we're at BDA, which stands for Beau des Arcs, which is the Osage orange tree, and there's two orange trees actually on the property, and so that's kind of where we got our name from. And so we are selling our market to, we do work on the Pepper Place Marketplace in Birmingham directly with our consumers, and then we also sell to 16 restaurants. We're constantly delivering vegetables to those restaurants, whether that be on a weekday or our weekends after our market. We're making sure that those restaurants are supplied with seasonal, organically grown vegetables. And so we're able to sell not only to the markets, we're able to sell wholesale to restaurants, and then we do a CSA program, a community service agriculture. It's like a subscription box where we send a vegetable package with, whether it be, a mix of eggplants, arugula, it'd be something different every time. And so we're just trying to get people, nutrient vegetables that they can eat every week, and they're always changing up their menus so they're not consistently getting the same thing, because it's kind of tiring to eat a salad every week. So a lot of our supplies are through Johnny Seeds or Alabama Co-op Seeds Company, and what we want to make sure is that we're working with a company that is organic seed. Sometimes we do get hybrids or we get an F1 generation, and so we're trying to make sure that we are producing the best vegetable out there. And so Johnny Seeds is a reputable seed company that we always go through. Our supplies like fertilizers and other things like that will get wholesale from our Black Belt, Alabama hardware shop. And so that's a great place to go to. We work directly with their family and we work here with us. And so it's a great community. We're always trying to work closer with our community because that's who we're here to serve. So here on the farm, we employ 4 people on the garden side. We have our manager, our assistant manager, and our 2 garden hands. And that's really all we need out here. It's not a large garden. We're a garden, we're not a farm. We're working towards making sure that we can harvest the vegetables in a timely manner, but also the labor that we need to get these planted and, the fabric bed shaped and all that equipment. So, it's a lot of hand tools that we use, whether it be broad forks or we're hand fertilizing, but we want to make sure that we're also getting those beds shaped perfectly. So we might have to run a tractor through, but we are a no-till operation. We're not trying to stir up those seeds in there and that make sure to get those weeds planted in again. We don't want to have that. We don't want to deal with the weeds, and so we're trying to mitigate the least amount of weed pressure there is. And during COVID-19, we saw more rise in our online sales than we did at our market. So it was noticing that consumers still wanted to have vegetables, but they didn't want to go, out into public places, and that's fine. We're willing to work with them. And so our CSA program really exploded during this COVID-19, and we're actually really thankful for that. And a lot of restaurants started noticing that too, and so they're trying to find a more organic source, and that's what we work here for. So here we have our beautiful green okra as well as our red okra, and here at BDA Farms we try to manage our plants as best as we can, whether that be pests, weeds, anything we don't want to have here. So we use this landscaping fabric down here to mitigate some of that weed pressure, but as you can see, even still then those weeds are coming up, but it's avoiding the plant and the plant's still able to get all the water and nutrients it deserves. And so here at BDA, we try to do seasonal vegetables and also local commodities too. So whether that be collard greens, a famous one is fried okra. And so a lot of people in the community love fried okra. So we try to supplement that as much as we can, whether that be in, red okra, green okra, it's still, they all taste the same, but it's giving, the consumer a different variety to try from. At BDA, we also don't have a subsystem irrigation. So we use a lot of drip lines to be able to get that water onto the plant. And here right now we're walking through our sweet potato patch actually, where in a couple months we'll be able to harvest our sweet potatoes, but also we can cut these greens and provide a nice green that supplements for bok choy or anything else for an Asian dish that you'd like to have. And so those drip lines are running 50 feet each way that are going to be able to get those waters, and we're regulating them on a subsystem that actually is going through the whole farm, that's allowing us to get water to each plot that we have, whether it be our okra plot or even the pigs in the background in our sweet potato plot, which is the furthest part of the farm right here. So in here we have these cat tunnels, and what these are allowing us to do is we can set up a smaller greenhouse that helps prevent wind damage. Here in southern Alabama we have a lot of hurricane seasons, and I'm fairly new to this, being from Arizona. Plants are very susceptible to wind damage, and here our eggplants are actually being held up with a Florida-line trellis system that's helping them stay upright. And actually these eggplants, not a whole lot of people realize, but they're actually a fruit because they're being spawned from the flower. And so then the seeds are going to be inside of the vegetable. And so we didn't tend to call them a vegetable, but they're actually a fruit. And as you can see, we also still put the fabric down in this tap tunnel, but grass still finds a way to grow. And I mean, that usually comes from healthy soils and proper nutrients for those plants to grow too. So right now I'm standing in our cucumber patch. These are actually summer squash, and so they're just going to be coming out of season here in the next month. But I wanted to show you guys our tarp systems that we use. We use it as a silage system. So instead of cover cropping and leaving the crimped plant on the cover, we end up using these tarps. Since we are a smaller scale farm, we're able to move the tarp rapidly and make this next plot available. And so when I remove the tarp, actually, you can see the whole growth of plants is stopped. And so they're not being able to get that sunlight that they need to help get them to grow a little bit stronger. And they're not able to photosynthesize. And that's going to be perfect for mitigating any weeds, grass, or anything that's growing under it. So then that way we can rip this tarp up and we can start planting, whether it be cucumber, squash, and the next plant that's available, we're going to be getting it in the ground, and we're not going to have to worry about weeds. We just have to get the irrigation system set up, the fabric down, and then we're planting. And so it's a very quick process. We're able to turn this around in about 2 weeks. We can put the silage down, flip it over, and then we're able to plant there. So right now we're on our strawberry patch, and this is actually our second year of having strawberries. And so strawberries don't tend to do well in the southern heat. With the moisture and humidity, it'll just end up wilting the plant and killing it. And so what we ended up doing is we mowed back the plants almost to about 1 inch above the ground soil. And so what that does is they're going to be able to regrow back and produce more berries for us later in the winter. And so that's a very economical way of saving seed. Instead of having to replant thousands of dollars of strawberries, we're able to just keep the plant here in the soil, and we're able to have our strawberries come back. We're not going to get as good as the yield than the second year, but it's more viable to do this option than having to replant, because then you're spending labor, more equipment costs, whereas here all we have to do is mitigate the weed pressure. So here we're in one of our trellis greenhouses, and we use these trellis systems to mitigate with the wind damage too, because we have these sidewalls that we can end up rolling down. But when those big storms come through, these tiny chili plants, the chilies will end up weighing down the plant, and that'll prevent it from standing upright. And so the trellises, we clip them down on the bottom with a piece of plastic, and it helps them standing upright through the whole season. And as you can tell, they're not the prettiest right now, but we're coming out of the southern months, so they're a lot more ripening and turning red, and we can use those to make red chili, whether that be something more spicy. But we do have a combination of sweet peppers as well. And so we can use those in Italian dishes, and that's what we like to work with our chefs. Finding out what dishes they want to make so we can make a perfect product for them to get them to the market. So here we have our arugula. Our arugula we're able to plant direct seed into the ground once we've shaped the beds, and in 21 days we get this beautiful plant standing up. And our chefs love it. We could able to harvest it and pick the greens off, and we can eat it. It's a more spicier lettuce, but ends up, once you clip it down, it helps stimulate the plant to help regrow, and so we can keep coming back and cutting it for multiple weeks. So here we have our cherry tomatoes, and our cherry tomatoes are actually really delicious. And here we have our sun gold variety. But our common pest right here is we have that caterpillar always coming in, so we got to make sure we're watching out for those guys. But our best pet that we can afford right now is the banana spiders. We have hundreds of them in here. And these spiders allow to catch leafhoppers or any of the flies that are coming through that can be transmitting diseases from one plot to another. And they really help prevent and keep our tomatoes healthy. And so we're really thankful for nature working with us, and we work with nature as well. And through our farm too, we use extension resources. Our extension officer, Olivia Fuller, she's been a great help, whether that be checking with the entomology, figuring out what pests we have, and then taking soil analysis. We can't figure out what to fertilize the soil with if we don't know what's going on in our soil. So we're using a lot of science too. And that's not a problem. Our cattle are sequestering carbon. We are looking at the carbon cycle here on the farm. And so we also need to mitigate what's going on with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and other micronutrients as well. And so we got to make sure that those are all being supplemented. So we're trying to get soil analysis done on each plot. It's a lot of work, but it's fun to do too, because it's laying in the dirt. I just graduated from Mexico State 3 months ago in May, and I moved out here to Alabama. So I'm a first-generation farmer as well. And I mean, I'd say it's intimidating and it's scary to come out here and work out outside every day. But I feel fulfilled in it. I'm making sure that the nutrient vegetables that I'm growing are also great for people to have them in their homes and great for their children as well. And so I want to make sure that, the kids that are trying to come up into agriculture, they have a space for it. There's a lot of, talk about how farmers are bad, or, ranchers or cattlemen, they're abusive to their animals or abusive to the land. Regenerative agriculture is really changing that. We're trying to sustain the land because we want to preserve it for future generations to use. And so as a young person right now, I can say, if you care about the land, then you really care about farming.